Hi, I'm Pam Valcanti, and I'm going to do a demo on the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. And I'm going to use this photograph in my sketchbook. So first I'm going to determine the placement of the large set of orange-brown mountains. And I put a point on the left side where it starts and a point on the right side where it stops and draw that line in. Then I'm going to focus on where the two mountains in the foreground divide, and it creates a kind of triangle shape. I'm putting a little bit of the detail in there that I see in pencil, of course, and bringing that right side down a little bit and some lines where I see light and dark areas. And now I'm going to put that blue mountain range across the top in relation to the other mountain ranges. And there's a little bit of a purple mountain in there. Now I'm going to first do a wet on wet in the sky, being careful not to get into those blue mountains in the far distance. I'm going to skip putting the color into those because the sky is still wet, and so I'm just going to skip down a layer. Likewise, in the foreground, I'm kind of skipping the layers and waiting for it all to dry before I go back in. Putting in some basic color. It's pretty intense colors out there across the mountains, as well as in the desert part that's just beginning in the foreground. Now I'm adding some darker shadows with a reddish orange, a little burnt sienna in there, and a little bit of details to keep the direction of the mountains flowing. And now I'm going to add those blue mountain ranges in the back very quickly here, bringing some of that blue down into the other areas, deepen it up, a little bit more detail with the watercolor, waiting for that blue mountain range in the background, far background, to dry. Adding a little bit in that purple range and in the triangle area where the mountain on the left meets the mountain on the right. And back to the blue mountains to finish up that detail. And there you have it. You could stop right here, or you could add other things. I am going to add a camel, and I'm going to show you how to do that using lines and shapes. So we're going to start with the biggest part of the animal, which looks like an egg shape. That's the body. And a line for the neck, which is a curved line. The face, the head looks like a triangle, so I put that in there, and the hump is a circle. I'm looking at the legs as rectangles, and each section of the leg is a different sized rectangle. The hoofs are a, a bit of a triangle shape, and I'm putting those in just to indicate where they are and the size of them. And I'm using Photoshop right now. It's a little bit different from drawing from a picture, but I will show you that momentarily. So finishing up the legs, I'm going to go back and draw where the tail is, and then make a tube, a curved tube for the neck. And as you can see, there it is. Now, what I want to do is go back into it and modify those lines. Where the hump comes up, you know, it's a gradual line up. Some of the spaces where the legs and the body come in are a little bit different. So I'm kind of modifying those legs a little bit. Okay, now it's time to erase. And I'm erasing all the lines I don't need to make it look a little more realistic. And I think that looks pretty good. Now we're going to put it in the foreground of the painting that I just did. So I'm going to start with an egg-shaped body in pencil. I want to get that egg-shaped, and the curved line for the neck, putting in the hump and then the legs as some rectangle shapes of different sizes. Of course, the tail goes in the back. And now I'm going to put that triangle head in, and I'm going to add the lines for the neck, kind of looking at that shape, and the front legs. That's the front, and then the back. There's the back foot. I'm going to outline this, adding the hump in a modified way, and looking at the way the whole shape goes, kind of an outline. There's the bottom of the body. And the front of the leg. And where the body and the neck meet with the head. A little bit of the hair on the back of the head. All right, the back legs come down from the very back of the camel, and kind of putting in a little bit of detail in the hoofs. And the tail. finishing up that back leg and the hoof. Now, would I have had to use the pen and ink? No, I could have just simply made a good strong outline with the details in pencil and erased the parts I didn't want. So now I've got my outline, and I'm doing it actually in pen and ink so that you can see it better. All right, now I'm getting my watercolors on here, and not exactly the same colors because I want the camel to stand out. So I'm using a slightly darker color. It's a little more intense, which replicates some of the colors that I see in Morocco. Quite intense, beautiful colors, plus a little darker areas. I should have moved my watercolor tray over, but it's the way it is. And getting some little bit of detail on the shading here. I want to put in, yeah, his neck is a little bit in shadow. Now I need to get the highlights back in. I'm just taking off some of that paint with my brush. What I do is I dip it in water and get the excess water off, and then brush it over the paint that I've applied already, and in between dry it off on my towel and go back again. So what it does is it lifts the color a bit because I think I got a little too dark here, and I wanted to show a little bit more highlight, which I'm just finishing up here. And now I'm putting the eye in. There we go. With a darker, kind of a black with, or a dark blue with the brown. Now, one of the things I want to remember to do is not to, I'm putting a little more detail in here, not to forget to add, there we go, some shading. So I put a little bit of shadow under the feet of the camel. And that indicates that he's on a flat surface, that maybe it's part of the desert that's starting. And now, because he's so dark, I'm adding just a little bit of darkness in the background again. Again, I have a tendency to overwork things a little bit. A little bit of pen and ink again to kind of pull it all together.